I played that for Mike Ferguson, who probably had a flashback that he was on the Allman Show again, filling in. So, how are you, Mike?
I am great. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you. Good job last week filling in for Jamie Allman.
That was so much fun. I got to tell you, it was a blast knowing I could still keep my hand in radio and do what I do here. It's absolutely love it, and hopefully I'm fitting into 97.1 okay.
Absolutely. Mike's now, of course, with the Show Me Institute, but has been in the radio business for many years as well and does a great job. So there's a new report out from the state auditor. I saw some media outlets covered this the last week, and tell us what that report discovered.
Yeah, the state auditor, Nicole Galloway, looked at just a sampling of some of the transportation development districts, these special taxing districts, and what she found was really, really disturbing. Listen, every time you go shopping, whether you're going to, the Valley or any places, there's like 98 of these in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County alone. 200 some odd across the state, 98 of them in those three areas alone. And what happens with these transportation development districts is that private developers and landowners can go through a procedure, set up this like mini taxing fiefdom with no vote of the people, with no input from the people, have this established, elect themselves to their own board of directors, choose to raise taxes, sales taxes, sometimes fees, but mostly sales taxes, that just get added to your purchase, and then vote to spend the money by hiring themselves to do the construction and contracting work as long as they can claim it has something to do with transportation, and there's really no limits on the definition of what can be called transportation. And then basically we're just simply using tax dollars to underwrite their cost of doing business. And what happened is the auditor just went through these and just time after time after time said, listen, over 8 times out of 10, 81% of the time, these transportation development districts are run by the very entities that profit from the sales tax dollars being funneled back to them. That's a problem, and she's absolutely right. So I actually went to Jeff City and interviewed her, and we just put a video out about this yesterday. If you go to the Show Me Institute's website at showmeinstitute.org or just go to our Facebook page, you'll see my report on it, and we talk directly to the auditor. So basically what's happening is this is a backdoor way to set up a corporate welfare system that nobody has any oversight over whatsoever. It is the perfect storm of temptation for bad government.
So is it an easy legislative fix? I mean, how do you fix something like that?
You have to. She made several recommendations. One of them, she said, is require some kind of oversight with somebody who's on a city council or a county commission or somebody from the private sector at large who does not have a vested interest. The second one is, require a vote of the people. We have to do that with CIDs, community improvement districts. Sometimes we have to do them with other things. Somebody has to vote on it, but at the very least, it's got to be transparent. She also found that many businesses were not itemizing on the sales tax district, saying, by the way, you're paying for this TDD in the sales tax, which is actually against the law. Just they're so used to nobody looking and seeing what they're doing that they're just collecting the money and sticking it right in their pocket. That's
unbelievable. Well, at least she shed some light on it. Now, these TDDs, I mean, they can do good things for communities. I mean, the original intention was not for it to get to this point, I'm sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same thing like with tax increment financing. Many times it's abused, but in concept, it's there. It can be a tool for good things. I mean, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to say, listen, there's going to be a community benefit for this development, whether it's a retail development or a hotel or a convention center, whatever it is. And the private developer says, listen, I need some support to help build this. But it's supposed to be something that is clearly going to benefit everybody. And what's happening is they said, hey, nobody's watching, so let's just go ahead and have somebody else pay for our stuff and lower our cost of doing business. I want them to make money, and I want them to build their business in the private sector, but they need to pay for it themselves. That's all there is to it. But, yeah, I mean, it's a matter of a tool that's gotten out of hand because there's no transparency and no oversight by the people who are elected to run these things. I mean, city councils, city halls, and county commissions, they have no say. They can't stop these things even if they wanted to, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah. So you guys, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but like the special taxing districts that had been set up, for example, to support that ice complex out in Chesterfield, right?
Yeah, the ice rink. Yeah, it's not exactly the same thing. You're right, but in concept, yeah, it is very similar. And the thing is, whether it's that or a tax increment financing or whatever the case is, there is something that's called a but-for argument, meaning that if we don't subsidize this somehow because the area is so blighted, this will never happen, and this part of the community is just going to continue to crumble. Well, come on. Is Chesterfield really blighted and falling apart, and is it really a horrible... No, it's not. So what we're seeing is they're just doing it because they can, and there are some cases, matter of fact, Patrick Toohey, our Western District Manager in the Kansas City office, and I were just talking about this a couple hours ago. There have been cases documented where the developers have actually said, we don't need the tax increment financing, and then later on say, you know what, we really would like a little bit of support, gone back and just got the money because they could. And it's just fleecing of the taxpayers because everybody loves to go to the ribbon-cutting ceremony, get their picture taken with a big pair of scissors, and tell all the constituents around re-election time that, look at the jobs that I brought to the city. Well, the reality is that they made everybody, rich, poor alike, fund some billionaire investor's pocket and lighten their load when the investors should be the ones who are taking all the risk for their business.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, the greatest example that I can think of is when they declared the West County Mall to be blighted in the middle of Des Peres, which might have one of the highest average housing values in the area. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, hey, let me switch real quick before we run out of time to this minimum wage issue because court ruled last week in favor of the city of St. Louis minimum wage issue. So now the plan is to run right out next week and bump it up to $10 an hour from whatever it is now, 7-something, I'm guessing.
I want to say $7.65, I think.
Now, they've got something called a living wage they've had in the city for a while for companies that had more than 50 employees. But for the smaller businesses, this is going to be a noose around their neck in some cases.
Oh, yeah, it could be devastating, especially for, like you said, those smaller businesses. Listen, a lot of businesses work on a very small margin. I mean, we're talking about locally owned, the mom and pop shops. We're talking about maybe the call centers. We're talking about all of these businesses that either are very local, not franchised. We're talking about some that are franchised and owned locally. We're also talking about places that contract out, like call centers and things like that. In some cases, I mean, you're talking about, 30, 35, almost 40% increase in their labor cost.
Sure.
Well, if you can't pass it on to the market because the market won't cover it, it's just not worth it in the market, that leads you to a clear conclusion. Somebody's going to lose their job. So the people who keep their job, hey, this may be great for them, but you're not factoring in the people who are going to lose their job. I mean, also look at the automation aspect of it. I mean, Wendy's, 2 months ago or something like that, announced that somewhere around 10,000 of their stores are now going to automated kiosks to order your burgers. If you Google search Flippy and hamburgers, you're going to see the technology is already being built for restaurants for a robot to make, 12 or 15 burgers at a time, and one person can assemble them. So they're eliminating probably 10, 12, 15, 20 jobs per local fast food restaurant. And it's not because evil corporations just want to get rid of people because they want everybody to be poor, which is dumb because if everybody's poor, nobody can buy their product.
Right.
It's a matter of basic economics, and that's about people. If a business is forced to pay more for labor than it's actually worth, you buy less of it. That's just the way that it is. And the people who are going to lose out are the people who need the job experience the most. The bottom line is that when we look at the people, like, for instance, in the urban core of our big cities, those kids are going to lose their jobs, and my daughter, who probably doesn't need it, is going to keep her job.
Yeah.
Because she's coming in, with more skills than a lot of kids have the opportunity to develop on their own. And so this is just kicking the rung out of the bottom, the bottom couple rungs of the ladder.
It's a good point. And you said 30, 40%. I'm guessing if somebody's making minimum wage, which is $7, and they suddenly get a $3 raise, that's somewhere between 40 and 50%, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's way up there. I mean,
up somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, before taxes and everything, it absolutely is. So the people who are left standing, Yeah, great, but who's going to be left standing? Well, the people.
That's a good point.
Yeah, who honestly, and this is still also going to result in fewer people being full-time at these wage levels. I mean, so the insanity of marches for $15 an hour is just almost economically suicidal. And I just look at these movements and I say, why do you hate unskilled and young workers so much that you are willing to deny them the opportunity to develop some skills, build a resume, learn how to get, hold, and keep a job, when the reality is what's going to happen is you're just going to funnel more of these jobs into people who frankly, aren't going to make a living off of them. They're going to probably be part-time supplemental income.
These are the Occupy Wall Street people who want everything handed to them.
Don't tell me what to say.
That's all I'm saying. And I'm also, we're talking to Mike Ferguson with the Show Me Institute. I'm going to wait till I get home to Google Flippy because I'm afraid of what might pop up on my screen here at work. Is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's probably safe. You never know. I have made that mistake a few times thinking I'm doing research and then I have to explain myself.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Really not what I was looking for.
Mike, great job as always. Appreciate your help, and I'll direct people to showmeinstitute.org.
Thank you very much, my friend. We will talk to you soon.
Have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Try to stay dry. Yeah. The West County Mall was blighted. Yeah, that was a problem. All right, I'll get